How is everybody today? I'm just going to move across because I can see a bit of sunshine across my face. How's that? That's a little better. Well, it's wonderful to see so many people jumping on a beautiful brisk Saturday morning in winter. Welcome to all of our New Zealand friends from across the North and South Island. We're so excited to be sharing some really good news with you today. Please welcome our team. Welcome Ange Parky and Claire Duke from our Australia New Zealand team. And hello to you all from me. So we are launching a new product in New Zealand and we're absolutely thrilled. On behalf of Australia, we have a little bit of envy that you guys are getting this magnificent product. And we're just so excited to share with you today a lot more about the product. So what we want to talk about today is what is daily wellness? What is the need for daily wellness? What's in the daily wellness product? How does the daily wellness product complement our existing products? And so much more. So we knew that to do this, we needed to bring the expert in from out of town. So this morning, we're absolutely thrilled to present to you our Senior Vice President of Research and Development for LifeVantage. Brian has an extensive experience within our industry. He's been in the network marketing industry now for many, many years. He has a background in research and specifically in the areas as well of nutrigenomics, which is really kind of was like it was meant to be that he joined LifeVantage, right? And so much more. I'm not going to go through his whole bio because I know that many of you already know and love what Brian does. But I think we've got Brian here already. And we're going to hand Brian's in the house.
Yeah. Hey, how are you? Good morning.
So Brian, thank you so much for joining us. I know that you guys have your Elite Academy at the moment, which is really exciting. I can see that you've propped up and dropped the beard and looking very smart and respectable, which is not that you didn't before, but it's really great to see you. And thank you so much for joining us. We're super excited about the opportunity to launch Daily Wellness in New Zealand and, you know, to have the opportunity again to be able to boost people's immune systems. Is it boost or is that the right word?
We like the word strengthen, and it's an interesting point, and we'll talk about it in just a little bit. But there's really a difference between strengthening and boosting, and you know there's a lot of products on the chemist shelves that are meant to boost your immune system. So maybe you feel that little tickle in your throat and you go there and they want to boost it so it can get up to speed as quickly as possible to try to knock everything down. But you can't do that on a sustained basis because your immune system literally becomes fatigued, like other organs in our body become fatigued if stressed. So you don't want to take that approach for much longer than maybe a week or two. So this is designed to be much different than a boost. And so sorry to get hung up on some semantic words, Pammy, but strengthen.
That was a perfect entree, Brian. Thank you so much because, yeah, it is in our language. And that's what we talk about a lot when we talk about immune system, boosting the immune system. So that's really, really interesting to learn. And that's exactly what we're here for today, to be educated on, you know, what is the language around the product? How do we promote the product? What is the product? What are the ingredients? You're going to tell us all. So I'm going to hand over to you. Welcome, Dr. Brian Dixon. Thank you for being with us today.
Yeah, thank you, Pam. And it's so wonderful to see you. I can't wait till I can get down to New Zealand again and do all this stuff in person. I don't know about anybody else, but I'm sick and tired of Zooms. That's for sure.
We hear you.
But, you know, kudos to New Zealand and Australia. I know they've managed the situation really, really well. And so I'm sure you guys will be one of the first to open up to the rest of the world.
Thanks, Brian. Well, are you ready to get started?
I am. I'm just trying to,
I can
you
see
think
your
by
eyes.
now
You're like, right, where are the slides?
I was trying to vamp there for a little bit, but I
But
couldn't buy myself
concentration was
enough time.
needed.
So yeah, today let's talk about maybe the worst kept secret in LifeVantage and LifeVantage New Zealand specifically, and that's daily wellness. And just so excited that we were able to rush this out. You're one of the first international markets to be able to get this product. So let's talk a little bit about it. If you know me and you know how I like to present, I love definitions. You're going to see a few definitions throughout this talk today. But if you were to ask me just a simple one sentence line for what is LifeVantage Daily Wellness, it's a powdered drink mix that is meant to be consumed daily to support our immunity and overall health. So you'll see it's going to reach much further than just our immune health. I've underlined a couple words that I want to highlight, and it's what we're going to talk about today. But, that great segue from the boost to the strengthen conversation. This is meant to be taken daily. Okay. And I love how the marketing team came up with the name for it, daily wellness. And coming back to this notion of boost versus strengthen, I think we can also use exercise as a great example. So what we want to do when we're trying to get fit is just do a little bit every day, or at least the majority of the days of the week, right? Because we know our body's going to become stronger over time. Now, if I wasn't exercising and then all of a sudden, say I went out for maybe a 10-kilometer run, man, I'm going to be pretty cooked, probably going to need a nap, and going to be sore the next day. So really what we're trying to do is think about strengthening that immune system slowly over time, so that when we do meet maybe some sort of challenge, our immune system is ready to react and respond and do what our immune system does. And we'll get into the nitty gritty of daily wellness. But where I want to focus the first part of this conversation is around our immune system. I think most of us know the concept of the immune system, but if I were to quiz each and every one on this call, I wonder how deep you could go in exactly what our immune system is, what it does, how it works, and then what we can do to support it. So I'd like to talk first a little bit about the immune system in these 3 points. So here's another definition as promised. So, technically, scientifically, the definition of our immune system is this coordinated, highly coordinated system of cells, proteins, and chemical signals that is designed to keep us as healthy as possible. Now, this is where we start to get into the nitty gritty. There are actually 3 parts of our immune system. And forgive me, this is a little bit of scientific jargon. I couldn't think of another way to describe them. So we'll just stick with the names that science gave them. So the first one would be our innate immune system. I think of the innate part of our immune system as being maybe the more ancient and archaic and crude part of our immune system. Then we get into our adaptive immune system. And this is definitely a much more evolved part of our immune system. The cells of the adaptive part of our immune system become very specialized. They have very specific jobs and are very good at what they do. But there's a third part of our immune system that almost everybody forgets to think about. And if you're not familiar, I think you're going to be surprised, because it's literally staring you in the face. So can you guess what that third part of our immune system is? It's actually scientifically what they call the barrier system, but it's our skin, right? So people don't think about your skin as being a very important part of your immune system, because the more intact your skin is, the harder it is for anything to get into our system. So our skin is obviously designed to keep the outside world out, the inside world in, and is our first layer of defense, right? If you think about it. But we don't have just skin on the outside of our bodies. We effectively have a layer of skin that lines this tube that runs from our mouths to our other ends, that's also lining that tube or gut or digestive tract, however you want to refer to it. So we're thinking about the skin that's on the outside of our bodies, but also the skin that's lining the inside of our bodies. Because if you think about it, our gut, our GI system is exposed to almost as much of the outside world as our skin is. It's exposed through the air that we breathe, the food that we eat, literally everything we put in our mouths, the lining of our gut is exposed to. And maybe you've heard this fact, maybe you haven't, but it's been estimated that somewhere between 70 to 80% of all of the cells of our immune system actually live in our digestive tract. Okay. So that speaks to the importance of keeping that strong and healthy as well. So we'll walk through each of these pretty quickly, pretty simply, I hope. But I think we've spent some time on the skin already. Basically, I think of the skin as being like a castle. So we want the walls as strong, as thick, as high as possible to put up that good first line of defense, right? So the thicker the walls are, the higher they are, the harder it is for things to get in. And so that's what we want to be thinking about when it comes to our skin and our gut as well. So let's transition into the innate and adaptive part of our immune system. And I promise I'm not going to go through this schematic in detail, but I wanted to put it up there for a couple of reasons. And the first reason is, one, you can see that our immune system is just made up of a whole bunch of different cells. Okay, so they all have names and they all have functions. We'll have the innate immune system on our left, the adaptive immune system on the right. Sorry, I got that backwards. Adaptive on the left, innate on the right. It's complex. They all have names and functions, but really the main point I want to make on this slide is if you follow that schematic towards the top, you can see that every immune cell originates from a single stem cell. So early on, when that stem cell starts to grow and divide, it has to make a decision about what type of immune cell do I want to become. So that decision-making process, scientifically, they call it differentiation. We're going to come back to this when we talk about daily wellness, but it turns out there are nutrients that we can leverage to help these stem cells and these young immune cells actually make the right decisions so that they become the right type of immune cell that our body will need. It's simple to talk about the innate and adaptive immune systems as just being very cut and dry, right? Innate over here and adaptive over there. But it turns out there's a special subset of cells that can kind of bridge the gap between these two parts of our immune system and help coordinate a response. They help in the communication process, and it becomes really critical for an overall healthy immune response. So while we talk about them separately, they do overlap to some extent. I mentioned early on that I think of our innate immune system as being ancient and archaic and very crude. It's the older part of our immune system for sure, but it's also incredibly important because the innate part of our immune system tends to be the first responders. They're the first one on the scene when we need them. But how they work is very, very crude. And, forgive me for the analogy I have up there, but just like a bomb will affect indiscriminately anything around it, the innate immune system is working in that very same way. It doesn't have this focused mentality. And so anything that comes in contact with an innate immune cell can become victim to how it's working. And that includes also our own tissues, okay? So then we transition into the adaptive immune response. And I mentioned that these cells are highly specialized in their jobs and what they do. And so while the innate immune system is very indiscriminate in how it's working, the cells of our adaptive immune system tend to be incredibly precise and kind of like the snipers, if you will, of our immune system. So if we come back to that definition of our immune system, let's talk about the chemical signaling that's going on. And I know this notion of chemical signaling and communication isn't new to people around LifeVantage, but let's talk about the chemical signaling that goes on in the immune system. And we see chemical signaling throughout nature. So just to maybe give you kind of some more macro examples of what's going on. But, you know, a female ant will lay this invisible pheromone trail that her sisters can follow to get to food, to get to water, and then ultimately find their way back to the nest. We see this with moths and butterflies mating. So a female butterfly will go high up into a treetop. She'll start fluttering her wings and secreting some pheromone, basically putting out this little cloud of pheromones. And the male butterfly is very uniquely equipped to smell this pheromone. And so then what he will do is follow this pheromone trail back to the female, and then they will make little baby butterflies. But something very similar is happening of the cells of our immune system, and where chemical signaling becomes incredibly important. So I'm going to show you a video here in just a minute, because while we might be familiar with our immune system, I would bet the majority of people on this call have never actually seen it work. So what's going on is, this is a microscope slide. So it's under a microscope, under some pretty high magnification, and all the kind of little dots you can see around this microscope slide are going to be cells of our immune system. And then what the scientists did was drop a little microscopic worm onto that slide. And what you're going to see happen when I play this video is a couple immune cells are going to recognize that that worm probably shouldn't be on that microscope slide. So they will attach, start to emit the chemical signals. You'll see the immune cells around this worm start to go crazy. They'll be fluttering like crazy, and then they will be attracted to that site. So I want to draw your attention kind of to the middle of this worm, and then definitely down towards the bottom as well. All right, so you ready to see how your immune system works? I never get tired of watching this video. I think it's just absolutely fascinating. So you can see how just a couple of cells recognize that worm is foreign, start secreting these chemical signals. It's activating the other immune cells around it and drawing them in, and eventually the entire worm gets engulfed by immune cells. Pretty cool, hey? Now, here's another video that's going to show something similar, but a little bit different. So here what they've done is taken a drop of human blood, put it on a microscope slide. Okay, so let me orientate you just a little bit. So what we have on this microscope slide, kind of the biggest cell that you can see here, kind of that bell-shaped curve up towards the upper left, that's going to be one of our immune cells. Those darker, more round cells are just going to be the red blood cells that you'd expect to see from a drop of blood. But then what the scientists have done is they dropped kind of a little cluster of bacteria onto this microscope slide. And what you're going to see is this immune cell literally chase down the bacteria that's going to start vibrating its way around this microscope slide. It's going to chase it around the slide, hunt it down, and eventually capture it and do what immune cells do. So you ready to see this part of our immune system in action? Isn't that crazy? And then you will literally see it completely change direction. So like I said, it is actively hunting. And this is because that immune cell can literally smell little chemicals that are being given off by that bacteria. So how amazing is that? And that's what's happening inside of our bodies. So you can see our immune system is incredibly active. It's not just this passive thing that's sitting in our bodies. It is actively working to keep us as healthy as possible. So another complicated slide. Look, I joke that if I don't show at least a couple complicated schematics, graphs, or whatever, I'm going to lose my job. So I got to show a few of these throughout my presentations. But I put this up to illustrate that there's some really unique biochemistry that's happening inside of certain immune cells. The way that immune cells do what they do is by generating a whole bunch of free radicals and other oxidants. And I think we all know how devastating and oxidative stress can be. And our immune system is leveraging it to its advantage. So I don't want to dwell on kind of all the biochemistry that's going on here, but I do want to draw your attention to a few chemicals down here in the lower left. While you may not recognize kind of the chemistry nomenclature that's going on here, I promise you will know some of the compounds when I name them off. So let's start kind of at the bottom of that yellow box. So you have HOSCN. Well, anywhere you see CN in this chemical notation, that refers to compounds that contain cyanide. So I think we know how devastating cyanide can be. If we go up from that cyanide containing compound, we see H2O2. Does anybody know what that might be? It's hydrogen peroxide, right? So if we get a little cut maybe on our finger or something, what do we put on it first thing? Hydrogen peroxide. Well, our immune cells can actually make hydrogen peroxide. And then if we go straight left from hydrogen peroxide, there's another compound that's called HOCl. Anyone know what that might be in common everyday language? Well, it's called hypochlorous acid, but otherwise known as common everyday bleach. Okay, so what do we use to keep our countertops and our tables clean? Well, maybe put a little bit of bleach solution on them. So our immune cells can make all of these compounds that we know are incredibly effective. So these immune cells are under a tremendous pressure from all of these free radicals and oxidants that they're generating. So they also have a whole bunch of different antioxidant defenses. And in fact, when you look over there by that H2O2, you can see SOD, or superoxide dismutase. So these immune cells also have a very robust antioxidant defense mechanism as well. So our immune system, I think, thinking about it incredibly simply, it can be turned on and it can be turned off. Now, it's a little too simplistic of a view, in my opinion. And how I like to think about it more is that it's really a balancing act, right? We want it always a little bit on and always a little bit off so that we can skew that balance one way or another as we need. So when we're talking about a healthy immune system, what we're really talking is about is a healthy, balanced immune response. And so when we started thinking about formulating daily wellness, we started thinking about, well, how can we best nutritionally support these three aspects of our immune system? So the barrier system, the innate, and the adaptive parts of our immune system. But what we're really talking about are what are the nutrients we can utilize to support gut and skin health? What can we do from an antioxidant point of view to help our immune cells help themselves, but also to protect our own cells as well from some of the negative consequences that can happen from an immune response? And then, of course, we want to support all of the cells of all the parts of our immune system to support their growth, that differentiation, or that decision-making process that they have to make when they're just being born, their activation so they can do what they need to do, as well as their efficiency. So to do that, we leveraged 5 different nutrients. And I like to think of these nutrients really in kind of 2 general classifications. One are essential vitamins and minerals, and the other are the additional nutritional things we can do to support our immune system. So let's talk about essential vitamins and minerals first. So what you're going to find in daily wellness is vitamin C. And I think we see vitamin C in a lot of the products that we might see at the chemist. We have it in there at 150 milligrams. And the reasons that it's in there is first for antioxidant protection. It turns out that certain cells of our immune system specifically want to accumulate vitamin C inside of themselves to help with that antioxidant defense. In fact, the concentration of vitamin C in some of these immune cells can be between 100 to 1,000 times greater than the concentration of vitamin C that's just floating around in our blood. We also have vitamin C in there because it's also important to support the cells of our immune system. So it helps with that cell division process we were talking about, or that differentiation, decision-making process that goes on. And then we also know that vitamin C is just absolutely wonderful to support our skin and gut health through its requirement to make collagen. So if you're not familiar with what collagen is like the glue that holds the cells together. So you can get these cells really nice and tightly joined together. I like to think of maybe kind of a brick wall. So if the bricks would be like the cells, the mortar would be like that collagen that's holding everything together. Next, we have vitamin D, and we have it in there at 5 micrograms. Vitamin D works a little bit differently than a traditional vitamin or mineral for that fact. Vitamin D is actually working more like a hormone. Vitamin D has been shown to regulate over 2,000 different genes, many of which are directly involved in our immune response. So vitamin D is also going to help positively affect how the cells of our innate and adaptive immune systems are working through this hormonal activity. And then we have the mineral zinc in there as well. And we have it in there at 10 milligrams. Zinc is in there for a couple of different reasons. First is, again, additional antioxidant protection. So like vitamin C, it can work as a direct antioxidant, but it can also work as an indirect antioxidant because it associates with a number of antioxidant enzymes, including SOD or superoxide dismutase. There are actually a few different forms of SOD in our body, but the thing that they all have in common is the requirement for zinc. Zinc is the antioxidant part of SOD. And in fact, what has been shown is that if SOD loses zinc out of its enzyme, SOD actually works in reverse, and instead of being an antioxidant, actually generates a number of oxidants. So we want to make sure that we've got enough zinc around for that antioxidant protection, and also that there's enough zinc around to support these enzymatic requirements. Zinc also associates with over 300 different proteins in our body, so it has an incredibly diverse and essential function. It helps with cell division, it helps with that decision-making process. And so we're also helping to support all of the cells of our immune system, the innate, adaptive, and skin. So then if we start talking about these other nutritional components or nutritional extracts, we have two in daily wellness. We have elderberry, that's found at 200 milligrams. Elderberry, if you're not familiar, has been used for centuries, especially in Eastern Asian medicine, to literally support everything under the sun, especially to help support our immune system. And the reason elderberry does that is because it provides a number of vitamins and minerals that are essential for cellular function, but also more antioxidants and phytonutrients, a number of phytonutrients. One particular phytonutrient that's incredibly important to our immune response is something called anthocyanins. I don't have a ton of time to dwell on anthocyanins today, but if you get bored or maybe need to get to sleep at night, I'd encourage you to go search up anthocyanins and what they do to help support our immune system. And then what is really kind of the hero ingredient, and the more I get to know this ingredient, read about it, the more I fall in love with this ingredient. It's what we're calling a whole yeast ferment. Okay. This product, like I said, this ingredient is absolutely amazing. There are 7 preclinical studies on this extract, and there are 8 clinical studies showing exactly how effective it can be to support our immune system. And the mechanisms by which it's doing it are really quite intriguing. And it's doing everything from supporting gut health to supporting our overall health of the cells of our different parts of our immune system. And then it's also helping to activate our immune system. So it's helping with that activation and efficiency. So when we look at this yeast ferment and what's going on, what they're doing are feeding yeast a pretty unique type of food. And then they're also growing these yeast on the food in the presence of oxygen. So it's aerobic. And then they'll also take the oxygen away. So it's also anaerobic. So by controlling the food that they're feeding these yeast and also the conditions that they're grown in, you can steer the metabolism of these yeast to produce a number of different compounds. So then what they'll do when the process is finished is they dry everything down into a powder and then analyze what's in there. And what they find is there's a number of proteins, polyphenols, so kind of these phytonutrients that come both from the yeast and from the food that they're fed on, a number of vitamins and minerals, again, amino acids, polysaccharides, or a special type of fiber. We get other fibers in there as well. And then we're also getting beta glucans. The beta glucans are working in a really, really interesting way. It's this notion that's called priming. Okay, so what happens is these beta glucans ultimately make it into our bodies. We start to digest them. Our immune cells start to digest these beta glucans or these other specialized fibers. And then those metabolites make it back out into circulation. And just like we talk about with nutrigenomics, these metabolites bind receptors that actually bring our immune system to kind of a heightened state of readiness. So this is really that strengthening that we're talking about. I like to think of it almost like there's two locks on the outside of our immune cell. And this priming mechanism is like unlocking the first lock. So it's at that heightened state and it can more readily become activated, if you will, to go and do the job that it needs to do. Just an incredible, incredible ingredient, and definitely at the clinical dosages. So an easy way to remember it, and I know you're going to be seeing this in a lot of the marketing materials, but we're just simply saying 5 to thrive, right? So we have what I call the immune system greatest hits: vitamin C, vitamin D, and zinc, right? We see a lot of those in many, many immune products out there. And then when we add in the elderberry and this fermented yeast extract, this is an amazing product. And this is a product that I literally don't go a day without. I absolutely love it. And I can definitely tell when I miss a day. So I'd encourage everyone to get on this similar routine. Something I do want to caution you all about. I know we're still in the face of this COVID crisis. Please, let's keep the claims compliant. We don't have to make these grandiose claims. We know if we can support our immune system, our health is going to be better for it. So stay compliant. Let's absolutely stay away from COVID claims, bacteria, viruses, all of that. Because of the ingredients that make up Daily Wellness, we have an absolutely wonderful claim set that we can talk about. So some of the things that you can talk about with Daily Wellness is boosting your body's response to stresses. So if you think of that exercise analogy and how you want to keep yourself strengthened so that when you want to maybe go do something fun, it's not going to be a huge stress on your body. Our entire body is working that same way. So it's going to help us be more resilient to any type of stress that we might face throughout the course of a day. Adaptogens might be a familiar word to some. So we have kind of some adaptogenic properties going on with LifeVantage Daily Wellness. It's going to support your everyday health and well-being. It's going to also help support, in addition to the other amazing gut health products that we have, probio and prebiotic, it's also going to further help support your gut and also that microbiome that we have living there. But then look at these last two claims that we can make. So supports respiratory and sinus health, and then improves immune response. So just a wonderful claim set that we're able to make around LifeVantage Daily Wellness. And if you stick to these, you'll be in really good shape. So I hope that gives you just a little bit of background on kind of what your immune system is, the thought process that went on in research and development to actually put this product together, and then just overall what an amazing product this is. So I hope everyone's looking forward to its official launch July 22nd, and please do let me know what you think. We couldn't be more proud of it internally.
Brian, thank you so much. We have learned a lot already about the product. I happen to have I've got the hazing on, so you don't see the background, but I think you can see that there. I've got the little tub there, 1 scoop a day. Mix it up in a little bit of filtered, good quality water. Quick stir and down the hatch it goes.
You know, that's one thing we didn't talk about, the flavor. So the flavor is actually elderflower acai, and I think it tastes absolutely amazing. We were trying to come up with a universal flavor that we thought could work literally around the world, and especially there in the Asia Pacific. I'd say it's not super sweet. I know Americans, they love their sweet drinks.
You guys
but
love the sweetness, right? We're always like, it's too sweet.
It's too sweet.
It's not
so
too sweet.
I think and I hope we found a nice balance. And of course, you can adjust how strong you like the flavor or how dilute you like the flavor by how much water you add into it. So.
Absolutely. Brian, thank you so much. Before you go, I'm just going to do a quick scroll and just make sure we've answered all the questions that are here.
I think there was a question from Charlotte about the time of day, Brian, that they can, you know, what time of day is the best time to take our daily wellness, and is it okay to take with our other products?
Yeah, it's a great question, Charlotte, and looking forward to seeing you again, hopefully very, very soon. You can take daily wellness any time of day. Something else I should have touched on in my presentation, but hydration is also incredibly important for our immune support. So we want to make sure that blood's flowing, our lymphatic system is flowing. So hydration is also incredibly important. So the other reason we went with a powder drink rather than a tablet is we thought this could also be a way to encourage people to get just a little bit more healthy fluids into them every single day. So it doesn't really matter the time of day that you take it. I love to take it right after lunch. It just helps me wash down my lunch, gives me maybe a little bit of a treat afterwards. But any part of the day when you might need a little bit more water inside your body is perfectly fine.
Thank you. That's so helpful. And a lot of men seem to not drink enough water, right? Like it's just, you know, us women, we carry around our water bottles now. I remember when we were kids, no one went anywhere with water, you know, and now everyone has their water bottle. How many guys do you see walking around with their little water bottle? It's not so many. So yeah, a great way to get more fluids in. That's a really good point. I can see a question from Renee. Does it have a purpose to increase the dose if someone's starting to get unwell?
If you've been diligent about taking it daily, I would say that there's no need. Of course, there's no harm in taking more if you wanted to. The thing I would encourage people to do is, you know, take probably fewer than 4 scoops per day. And the reason for that is the zinc that's going to be in there. When you get above about 30, 35, 40 milligrams of zinc, you can start to have some health consequences and we're talking a little bit longer term. So short term, be okay. But what starts to happen is as we get too much zinc inside of our bodies, zinc and copper use the same transporters to be transported in and around our bodies. So zinc is found in milligram levels and copper's found in microgram levels. So tiny quantities. So what'll happen is you start swamping out the ability of our cells to start to transport copper. And so over time, one can start to become copper deficient. And so, like I said, short term, no problem, but long term, definitely don't go much over 4 scoops in a day.
I think 1 scoop is great.
Yeah.
A good dose. Brian, is Daily Wellness okay if anyone to take if they have a yeast reaction?
Well, that's going to be on an individual basis.
Yeah.
So yes, there is going to be some percentage of yeast in there. The yeast have been heat treated, to be killed. So depending on what the particular allergen might be, it may or may not be an issue. But we definitely haven't seen a lot of reports. We monitor what we call adverse events. Anything from tummy aches to more severe things. And review them quarterly. And we just haven't seen any sort of huge issues around it. But if you're concerned, make sure you're taking the proper precautions, maybe talk with your medical professional, whatever you need to do.
Okay. And so why do we need to take more antioxidants if we're already taking Protandim NRF2? Isn't that supposed to give us the maximum?
Yeah. And it's a good question, and a question I get very frequently. And here's the thing. We want as robust of an antioxidant response as possible. And it's made up of a number of different things, from the colorful fruits and vegetables we eat to the vitamin antioxidants. And not all antioxidants are created equally. So, for example, SOD is really only detoxifying one single molecule, one single free radical, but we generate a ton of them and we need it. Catalase is only detoxifying one specific molecule. Then we start talking about localization inside of the cell. So a lot of SOD is found inside of the mitochondria. What about inside of the cell membranes, et cetera? So yes, Protandim NRF2 is also incredibly important and essential for antioxidant support. There's no question. And you saw SOD in that biochemical pathway. So we absolutely want to be supporting that aspect of our health. But what isn't going to happen is these antioxidants, say the vitamin C, the D, and the zinc that's in there, is not going to interfere with the action of Protandim whatsoever. And I would argue that it's actually going to make them work more robustly. So if we come back to talking about SOD and that zinc analogy, if you don't have zinc around to be put into SOD in the first place, you at best have a non-functioning enzyme, and at worst have an enzyme that's going to work in the opposite direction. So these essential vitamins and minerals are going to be supporting overall health, but they're also going to be supporting the action of Protandim NRF2 synergizer. And I'll tell you one more little ironic story about the NRF2 network, communication network. So right, when we take the right things, NRF2 gets released, goes into the nucleus and binds to the DNA and flips the switches, right? That's what we talk about with Protandim NRF2 synergizer. The location on the DNA that NRF2 binds to is a very specific sequence, and it has a name. And that name is called the ARE, or the antioxidant response element. So how NRF2 was first discovered was because they saw activation of NRF2 when certain antioxidants were given. So not only are these vitamin antioxidants and minerals going to help support the action of Protandim NRF2 synergizer, you are also most likely going to be getting some additional activation coming as a result.
Wow.
Sorry, that was a long-winded answer, Pam.
I kind of got the last bit, which is the most important bit. Thank you. So there is a synergistic effect within the daily wellness as well.
Yeah, and to be full disclosure, we haven't tested that specifically, but there is definitely a strong scientific rationale that should absolutely be the case. And this is a study that we would like to do in the very near future, is look at that synergistic effect between vitamins and minerals and the activity of Protandim NRF2 synergizer.
Wow, amazing, exciting stuff. Brian, is the product Daily Wellness, is it suitable for teenagers, for kids, for anyone under 18, babies?
Yeah,
Just covering all bases.
My answer has to be, 18 and over.
Yeah.
And that's for all of our products. We have to say 18 and over, but by all means, talk to your gynecologist, your OBGYN, your medical professional, whoever it might be, and just double check with them, make sure, print out the label. You can very easily take it in. Maybe you can email or text it to your medical professional and just get their advice to also give you that peace of mind.
Awesome. I'm loving we're getting some great comments on the chat. Rhonda, who's a health professional, she said, I love the formula, vitamin C amount is perfect. So not too much, so anyone can take it, no problem. Most people on the planet are depleted or low in zinc. So zinc is responsible for many different needs and functions of the bodies. We've got Renee Gold, who's a pharmacist, giving feedback. So, there's some really good credibility right here just on the message thread, and a lot of questions coming through. We've got a lot of health professionals within our field. So it's really great for them to have even the more scientific, also more detailed information as well, because we know people like you, Rhonda, and Renee, like that really drilled down information. It's really important to you. For people like me, I just want to know that it works and I'm going to take it. So it's great to cover, both sort of styles of people and the way they like to learn about a new product. So I think we're sort of covered. I can't see, unless anyone's dropping in another question, I think we can. So I think that's Charlotte. She just said, that's me too, Pam. Here's one more question. I was under the impression elderberry is not good to take on an ongoing basis as it creates a cytokine storm that upregulates the immune system too much. Can we take this daily due to the lower dose?
Yeah. So 2 points. One is the dose that's in there. So again, we're always thinking about safety. So yeah, 200 milligrams. It's a generous dose, but it's not a massive dose of a gram or more that you might see in other products. Regarding the cytokine storm, I am very familiar with that concept, and I'm not aware of that fact happening with elderberry, and especially at the dose that we have. So I'm not familiar with it just in general, even at high doses, but even at these lower doses, I can't imagine that's occurring. What I wonder if this individual might be thinking about, sorry, Pam, I missed the name, is echinacea. And so echinacea can very much induce this cytokine storm, and can be effective, and why you find it in so many of these chemist products to be taken on the short term. So I know echinacea definitely is not an ingredient you want to take long term, and was the major reason why we left it out of this product.
Yeah, I've been hearing a lot about that, because there is a lot of people that were taking a lot of echinacea, because it got a lot of publicity. I don't know in the States, but in Australia and New Zealand, that it, boost your immune system for winter with echinacea. So that's really, really good to learn. I think we're almost done. I think there was one more question. No, I think we're good. Let me just check. Okay, thank you so much, everybody. We are really excited to be launching Daily Wellness in New Zealand this month. Wow, it's July already. It's crazy. We have a really cool event in Auckland, New Zealand, at the Parnell Hotel. There'll be a flyer coming out, Claire, probably in the next week, I would say. We have our wonderful Dr. Gail Pearson, who'll be facilitating pretty much like what we've done today. Many of you know Gail and how well she, executes delivery on product and information, and has a, very high credibility being an anaesthetist and in the health professional industry. So that's going to be a really fantastic event. It's free. It's open for distributors. It's welcome. We welcome guests. There'll be some sampling of Daily Wellness. So it may be your first chance to get your first dose of Daily Wellness into you. It's winter. We need this. And we want you to learn everything you need to know. Once again, more detail, because there'll be Deborah Roa, and Tina Kidman also facilitating, going over, you know, how do you promote this product to your customers and your distributors. We want to get everyone in New Zealand on daily wellness and have New Zealand the healthiest family on earth. We know that you're very passionate about health and wellness. So super excited about that date. Make sure it's in your diary, 22nd of July, 6 p.m. at the Parnell Hotel in Auckland. Our product has shipped. It's on the ground in New Zealand. Don't get too excited because it still needs to approve through customs. Everything's looking good for us to have the product available at that time. And we will certainly give the field a shout out on your e-blasts and everything and let you know as soon as it's ready to order. Brian Dixon, thank you so much for being with us.